Good evening, Carl. Time for our next story. This is the Ratcatcher of Hamelin. A very long time ago, when the town of Hamelin in Germany was invaded by bands of rats, the like of which had never been seen before, nor will ever be seen again. They were great black creatures that ran boldly in broad daylight through the streets and swarmed so all over the houses that the people could at last not put out their hand or foot down anywhere without touching one. When dressing in the morning they found them in their breeches and petticoats, in the pockets and in their boots, and when they wanted a morsel to eat the voracious horde swept away everything from cellar to garret. The night was worse. As soon as the lights were out, these untiring nibblers set to work, and everywhere, the ceilings, in the floors, in the cupboards, in the doors, there was a chase and a rummage, and so furious was the noise of gimlets, pincers, and saws that a deaf man could not have rested for 1 hour together. Neither cats nor dogs, nor poisons, nor traps, nor prayers, nor candles burnt to all the saints. Nothing would do anything. The more they killed, the more they came. And the inhabitants of Hamel began to go to the dogs, not that they were much use, when one Friday there arrived a man with a queer face who played the bagpipes and sang this refrain: Qui verra verra, le voilà le preneur des rats. He was a great gawky fellow, dry and bronze, with a crooked nose, a long rat-tailed moustache, and two great yellow, piercing and mocking eyes under a large felt hat set off by a solid cock's feather. He was dressed in a green jacket with a leather belt and red breeches, and on his feet were sandals fastened by thongs passed through his legs in the gypsy fashion. That is how he may be seen to this day, painted on the window in the cathedral of Hamel. He stopped on the great market's place before the town, turned his back to the church, and went with his music, singing, Who lives shall see that this is he, the Ratcatcher. The town council had just assembled to consider once more the plague of Egypt, from which no one could save the town. The stranger sent word to the councils that if they would make it worth his while, he would rid them of all their rats before night, down to the very last. Then he is a sorcerer, cried the citizens with one voice. We must beware of him. The town councillor, who was considered clever, assured them. He said, Sorcerer or no, if this bagpiper speaks the truth, it was he who sent us this horrible vermin that he wants to rid of us today for money. Very well, we must learn to catch the devil in his own snares. Leave it to me. Leave it to the town councillor, said the citizens to one another. And the stranger was brought before them. Before night, said he, I shall be dispatched all the rats in Hamel if you will pay me 1 gross a head. A gross a head, cried the citizens, but it'll come to millions of florins. These are types of money back in the olden days. The town councillor simply shrugged his shoulders and said to the stranger, A bargain, to work. The rats will be paid 1 gross a head as you ask. The bagpiper announced that he would operate the very evening when the moon rose. He added that the inhabitants should at that hour leave the streets free and content themselves with looking out of their windows at what was passing, and it would be a pleasant spectacle. When the people of Hamel heard of the bargain, they too exclaimed, A gross of head, but this will cost us a great deal of money. Towards 9 at night, the bagpiper reappeared on the marketplace. He turned first his back to the church, and at the moment the moon rose on the horizon, tra-ree-ra, tra-ra, the bagpipes resounded. It was a slow, caressing sound, then more and more lively and urgent, and so sonorous and piercing that it penetrated as far as the farthest alleys and retreats of the town. Soon from the bottom of the cellars, and from the tops of the garrets, and from all under the furniture, from all the nooks and the corners of the houses, out came the rats, searched for the door, fling themselves into the street, and trip, 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 began to run in file towards the front of the town, so squeezed together that they covered the pavement like waves of flooded torrent. When the square was quite full, the bagpiper faced about and played briskly and turned towards the river that runs at the foot of the walls of Hamel. Arrived there, he turned around. The rats were following. Hop, hop, he cried, pointing with his finger to the middle of the stream, where the water whirled around, and was drawn down a silver funnel. And hop, hop, without hesitation, the rats took the leap and swam straight to the funnel and plunged in head foremost and disappeared. The plunging continued without ceasing until midnight. At last, dragging himself with difficulty, there came a big rat, white with age, and stepped into the bank. It was the king of their band. Are they all there, friend Blanchett? Asked the bagpiper. They are all there, replied friend Blanchett. And how many were there? 999,999. Well reckoned, well reckoned. So, go and join them, old sire, and au revoir. Then the old white rat sprang in his turn into the river, and swam to the whirlpool and disappeared. When the bagpiper thus concluded his business, he went to bed in his inn, and for the first time during 3 months the people of Hamel slept quietly during the night. The next morning at 9 o'clock, the bagpiper repaired to the town hall, where the town council awaited him. "All your rats took a jump into the river yesterday," he said to the councillors, "and I guarantee you not one of them comes back. They were 999,999, and one gross a head. Reckon." "Let us reckon the heads first." "One gross a head is one head the gross. Where are the heads?" The Ratcatcher did not expect this treacherous stroke. He paled with anger, and his eyes flashed fire. "The heads," cried he. "If you care about them, go and find them in the river." "So," replied the town councillor, "you refuse to hold to the terms of your agreement? We ourselves could refuse you all payment, but you've been of use to us, and we'll go without recompense." And he offered 50 crowns. "Keep your recompense to yourself," replied the Ratcatcher proudly. "If you do not pay me, I shall be paid by your heirs." Thereupon he pulled his hat down over his eyes and went hastily out of the hall and left the town without speaking to a soul. When the Hamel people heard how they found it, they rubbed their hands, and with no more scruple than town council, they laughed over the Ratcatcher, who was, as they said, caught in his own trap. What made them laugh above all was his threat of getting him paid by their heirs. Ha! They wished only he had such creditors for the rest of their lives. The next day, which was Saturday, all went gaily to church, thinking that after Mass they would at last be able to eat some good thing that the rats had not tasted before them. They never suspected the terrible surprise that awaited them on their return home. No children anywhere. They had all disappeared. "Oh, children, where are our poor children?" was the cry that was soon heard in all the streets. Then through the east door of the town came 3 little boys, who cried and wept, and this is what they told. When the parents were at church, a wonderful music resounded. Soon all the little boys and all the little girls who had been left at home had gone out, and attracted by the magic sounds, had rushed to the great marketplace. There they found the Ratcatcher playing his bagpipes at the same spot as the evening before. Then the stranger had begun to walk quickly, and they had followed, ringing, singing, and dancing to the sound of the music, and at the foot of the mountain which one sees on entering Hamel. At their approach the mountain had opened a little, and the bagpipe had gone in with them, after which it had closed again. Only 3 little ones who are told the adventure had remained outside, as if by a miracle. One was bandy-legged and could not run fast enough, and the other, who left the house in haste, one foot shod, the other bare, had hurt himself against a big stone and could not walk without difficulty. And the third had arrived in time, but in hurrying to go on with the others had struck so violently against the wall of the mound that he fell backwards the moment it closed upon his comrades. At this story the parents redoubled their lamentations. They ran with pikes and mattocks to the mountain, and searched till evening came to find the opening by which their children had disappeared, without being able to find it. And at last, the night falling, they returned desolate to Hamel. But the most unhappy of all was the town councillor, for he lost 3 little boys and 2 pretty little girls, and to crown it all, the people of Hamel overwhelmed him with reproaches, forgetting that the evening before they all agreed with him. What had become of all these unfortunate children? The parents always hoped they were not dead, and that the Ratcatcher, who must certainly have come out of the mountain, would have taken them with him to his country. That's why for several years they searched of them to different countries, but no one ever came on the trace of the poor little ones. It was not until much, much later, Carl, that anything was heard of them. About 150 years later after the event, when there was no longer one left of the fathers, mothers, brothers or sisters of that day, there arrived one evening in Hamel, some merchants from Bremen returning from the east, who asked to speak with the citizens. They told that in crossing Hungary they had sojourned in a mountainous country called Transylvania, that which means the land beyond the forest, where the inhabitants only spoke German, while all around them was nothing spoken by Hungarian. These people also declared they came from Germany, but they did not know how they chanced to come to this strange country. Now, said the merchants of Bremen, these Germans cannot be other than the descendants of the lost children of Hamel. The people of Hamel did not doubt it, and since that day they regarded as certain that the Transylvanians of Hungary are their countryfolk, whose ancestors as children were brought there by the Ratcatcher. There are more difficult things to believe than that. Well, this is a different version of the story of the Ratcatcher that I know, at least the ending. The version I know, Carl, is that children are taken away to a magical land where there's no age or grief or sickness, and honestly I prefer that one. Love you to pieces. Night night.